We wouldn't blame you if you mistook this Panamera for the GTS we tested last year, as the wheels and paint are very similar. But this is a 2014 Panamera 4S, and that means this car no longer has a V8. In its place, we have a direct injected and twin-turbo 3-liter V6. Versus the outgoing V8, this engine makes 20 more horsepower, 15 more pound-feet of torque, and returns better fuel economy. The thing that remains difficult with V6s is mustering excitement. This week, we find out if Porsche has made it work. Launching the Panamera, like all Porsches, could not be easier. You hit Sport Plus, you jam both pedals, and then you release the brake. And how it launches out of the hole is just hilarious. Fast shifts thanks to this PDK transmission. Quarter mile in 13 flat at 104.6 miles an hour. Yada yada yada, something about 60 to 0 braking. Something about 99 feet in carbon ceramics. Moving on. Good power on exit, very easy to get aggressive on turn-in. It just stays pretty stable throughout the corner. You can get some oversteer like we did just there if you're really hard on it. For the most part, it's not a heavy understeer, it's a mild understeer. And it's pretty easy to get out of by just lifting off the throttle a bit. There isn't enough torque on tap to really kick the thing out, but that also may be because this is all-wheel drive, and we got the front wheels doing some of the work too. Big carbon ceramic brakes do a good job of slowing you down. I especially like the pitch forward, just a little bit of pitch that they give you as you come into the corner. It's really easy to drive the car in and know where the limits of adhesion are at. Being this is a turbocharged V6, you do have to wait and sort of plan for your corner exit because you have to kind of wait a little bit before the turbos come in. They like to claim that this thing makes however much torque it makes at 1750 RPM, but it doesn't. You still have to wait for the turbos to come in. Now, you wouldn't take a Panamera to a racetrack, but you could. And that's the cool thing about the Panamera. It's something we discussed about at length when we had the GTS last year. Of course, this is the 4S, so things are slightly different. But it still works, it's still enjoyable, it still has some sports car-like qualities that make it pretty fun out here. And it's interesting when you hop in the Panamera, so long as you never look behind you, you might think you were in a 911. The interior layout's identical. The way the hood slopes down, the way the front fenders slope down with them, it feels very much like a 911. But then you look behind you and you realize, oh, you got 2 more seats in cargo capacity. That's a very nice thing. But you also have some sports car driving qualities. The chassis feels agile, the steering feels good, the power is decent, and it's pretty fun to toss this car around. Now let's talk about this engine, because it is the biggest, newest component of this car. It makes decent power, it works. This car in our testing is faster than any S Panamera we've tested in the past. Around our figure 8, it was way faster than the GTS we tested. And yet, I'm not in love with this engine. It has no emotional component. It makes good power again, but it doesn't sound very good. It just sort of has this mechanical whine to it. It's not a very interesting engine. The way it goes about delivering power, it just sort of does it like any sort of German luxury sedan does. The Porsche badge brings with it some expectations of excitement, of emotional draw, something that makes you interested in the car, and this engine really doesn't have that. The car as a whole is still brilliant. It's still comfortable, incredibly practical for a Porsche, and still a lot of fun. This being the 4S, it's not going to do some crazy power oversteer or crazy slides. It has a lot of stability. The balance seems to be more on the safe side than anything else, but it's not punishing. It's not embarrassing. It's not a pain to be driven fast. Braking power is very strong thanks to these carbon ceramics, which I don't know why you would get on a 4S Panamera that you would drive every day. Which brings us to the options. This 4S has $42,445 worth of them, and half of that price comes from the wheels, carbon ceramic brakes, and other performance items. There's a dizzying amount of smaller options too. Thermal and noise insulated glass, voice control, front seat ventilation, a rear wiper, and on and on. It's rather ridiculous. But our biggest disappointment rests with the engine. It should always have that sort of edge. It should always have that sort of excitement in everything that it does. And this doesn't. We're in Sport Plus. We have the dampers sit on their most aggressive mode. We have the exhaust baffles open with this exhaust button over here. But it doesn't seem to make a difference if I turn the exhaust on or off. I just wonder if they might have missed their opportunity with this engine. Maybe they have. Despite its weight and all-wheel drive, the Panamera retains the certain nimbleness and overall agility you'd associate with the Porsche name. You wouldn't take it to a racetrack, of course, but you could, and you wouldn't be disappointed. The new Turbo V6 makes a strong empirical argument for itself, but it lacks a certain enthusiasm one would expect from a car with a Porsche crest on it. The engine to get is still the naturally aspirated V8. Regardless, the Panamera remains an extremely competent and fascinating car. Oh no! Electric parking brake. German cars, whenever you have an automatic German car and you open the door, the parking brake comes on. Why? Because Germans hate people who test cars and move cones around all day. Don't put the e-brake on. Don't put the e-brake on. Don't put the e-brake on. Don't do it. Don't. Dick. I can't shut the door without knocking the cone over. Granted, I've built this box. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Jesus.
So it actually takes 2 minutes to get around the first time.
Yeah, you know, so this is actually a really slow figure 8 lap.